War crimes are acts of violence directed against protected populations and sites. Protected populations are civilians, civilian sites, the sick, the wounded, medical staff, etc. And attacks that are directed, or even if they're not directed, if they cause severe damage to protected sites, are considered war crimes generally. First, the stopping the electricity and water is already a war crime. And later, because it targets civilian populations. And later, the use of illegal munitions, as you mentioned, is a war crime. Yeah, and targeting hospitals is a way, exactly what you mentioned, yeah. The way state militaries try to see themselves is as moral. And to be a so-called moral army, you have to abide by the laws of war. And what Israel does is it interprets its actions in such a way as to show that they were carried out according to the laws of war, and therefore it claims that it is moral. What we know is that the laws of war can be interpreted in many ways. They can be stretched, and that is what Israel does in order to lay the claim to morality. At the same time, it dehumanizes the Palestinians and claims that they are immoral, and that also plays into its claim to morality. So Palestinians are presented as barbarian and as primitive and as people who do not understand the laws of war, people that do not make distinctions between civilians and combatants, and so forth, and therefore they are immoral, while Israel claims that it tries to protect civilians. The fact is that Israel ends up killing more civilians than the Palestinians killed, and that exposes the problems of its claim to morality. The claim by Defense Minister Gallant that Palestinians are human animals, the claim by Netanyahu that Gaza is evil, Gaza City is a city of evil. If you look on Israeli social media, the characterization of Palestinians as rats or snakes, they're all instances of the dehumanization of the enemy to justify the killing of the enemy. When Israel tells 1.1 million Palestinians to move south and then claims that any Palestinian civilian that stayed there is involved in the conflict and therefore a legitimate target, is a way of manipulating the laws of war. I think the goal should be the de-escalation of violence. I think that one way to de-escalate violence is to emphasize the loss of human life. And I think it's important that the people that are killed, they all have names, they have families, they have children, they have parents, they have brothers and sisters and friends, they have dreams that have been cut short, they have flesh and blood. And it's very important to understand that every life that is destroyed matters. And so I think that the Western media has to highlight both the humanity of the people that are being killed, but also the structural imbalance between Israel and Palestine, where Israel has been controlling Palestine for many years and the occupied territories for many years, has been, and Israel has at its disposal the most cutting edge weapons and much more power than the Palestinians. And in many ways, this might be even the most asymmetrical war ever. And that we need to basically urge Western leaders and international leaders, instead of fanning the flames of the fire by, say, sending aircraft carriers to the region, to call on all sides to de-escalate and stop the violence. I think collateral damage is a horrific term, because what it actually means is the death of civilians and the destruction of civilian sites like hospital as a certain kind of damage that is allowed when you kill and target, when you target and kill combatants. And it reduces human life, the life of real people with flesh and blood, as I said before, that have families and friends and have stories and dreams, to some kind of term that kind of allows the precipitation of violence, collateral damage. I don't want to be called collateral damage. I assume no one wants to be called collateral damage and killed. We are people that have a purpose in life, that have friends and families. And so these kinds of terms kind of aim to sanitize the field and allow and perpetuate more violence. By genocidal retribution, I meant first the cutting off of water and electricity to the Gaza Strip, the instruction of Gaza, 1.1 million Gazans to leave their homes, and the widespread bombing of civilian areas throughout the Gaza Strip. And this aligned with the dehumanization of the Gaza, of the people of Gaza, of calling them human animals and rats and evil and so forth, is the ingredient of genocidal violence. And what we need to do at this moment in history is actually to stop all that. And we need to bring Hamas and Israel to the negotiating table. We need to implement an exchange of all the kidnapped people by Hamas for the political prisoners held by Israel, and begin a more concerted effort to think not only about a ceasefire, but about the decolonization of the Gaza Strip and West Bank, etc., and reaching some kind of agreement of a democracy between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea.